Mm. Okay, so.
Yes, we see.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Is it fine now?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah.
Normally, Matthias or Aryanyaz are joining us for the streaming.
Yeah, you can start.
We can? Okay.
Yeah.
Come on. Thank you so much, Ekman.
Okay, so I can start now.
Yes, I mean, we are now, we will be listening Mohsen Hazrati as the 5th VR talks. So thanks, Mohsen, for being us on a Sunday, on a nice Sunday. And you may have the ground, I guess.
Sorry?
You may start. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm also happy to be a part of the festival, and also thanks for this opportunity. Let me share this. Yeah, okay. So I want to talk a little bit about generally we are storytelling, but a little bit more focused on self-representation or self-portrait, let's say, in general in digital art, and maybe a little bit more like in also VR and AR. And also I will talk a little bit about my experiences. I mean, during this almost like 3-4 years, I'm working on this like self-representation in like digital tools. And I mean that maybe something that I want to talk about, like this self-portrait and self-representation storytelling VR projects, is maybe it's a chain or it's a continue or a development of self-portrait, which was like in the art history, and there are many examples, many theory, many projects based on this like self-portrait creating. And something is really like we can see in the self-portrait something that happened in the history, that we can see like we can see the artists trying to show themselves by their own style and their own let's say technique and their own way of creating artwork. I mean, we can see the main aim of this creating self-portrait is to see the artist. I mean, what the artist think about himself and what he want to or she want to represent himself. But one of the biggest challenges or difference that maybe generally our era, or I mean in this century or this time we have in talking about ourselves is this new many different ways of talking about ourselves, like different social media platforms and different the ways that we appear in us. I mean, each social platform ask us to show or talk about ourselves, maybe not in a different way, but the platform is different. And so by this way, I mean, the way that we talk about ourselves is also different. And also the virtual identity issue, which is really important in the self-representation and talk about ourselves, which is we always show ourselves as avatars, but it's not just even more the data that we put in these platforms and we put from us is totally different from videos, selfies, and everything. And yeah, this like virtual identity is really important when we talk about ourselves in conceptual way, and in the form, and in the let's say technical side of self representations. Maybe one of the most important things that is happening to us, or it's like available for us, is like self representation by pixels. Because if we want to use like digital technologies, yeah, I mean for sure, we like more or less, I mean we will use the pixels, even if we want to print something, even if we want to have it like physical artwork. But I mean that it seems that pixels is a kind of new language that we can talk about ourselves, and it's like different, and it brings a new like a different way or taste of what we are talking about. And something that we have right now in like digital tools, not I mean not just in like AR or VR, generally in creation in digital with digital technologies, creating an artwork. What is really important is that we can create a world, we can create a new creation. We can totally uh, appear and disappear something. We can decide about like the colors, the forms, how user perceive this form, and we totally have like new tools or extended tools to talk about like something. But I mean generally in digital technologies, and something that it gives to us, which is really also important, is the different experience of user from our story or our project or our self-representation, let's say. Because in the normal projects, like in the let's say physical or like painting project, it's more like object oriented. So I mean the experience of the user from the project is like from one perspective, and the user just get it from like their own like perspective, and the artwork is an object. But in digital art, and mostly if I generally digital art, but I mean a little bit more focused like in like game art or interactive art or even animation, that the different perspective or different way of perceiving artwork is something that we can use it a lot in our project. And if we go one step even further in like digital, like in VR, AR, or using webcams, it's so much different to like, and we can bring even more and more possibilities for the user to even experience our story in their own place, or experience as a VR experience their story in like in the story's world, let's say at the same time. So it's really important that we can use these possibilities as the conceptual part of our self-representation, let's say, or or the story that we want to talk about. So I prepared some like artworks that some like artists did in this field of like self-representation in digital with digital tools. Like for example, Jeremy Bailey. Uh, he had a project called Famous New Media Artist Jeremy Bailey. He just put this name to himself, and he have some like this diamondish style primitive 3D objects, and they usually move around. And then he have some also AR installation and artworks with also this style and this concept. And yeah, I mean, one of the really important artists in this field is like, let's say, avatar artist and curator as well, Latorba Abaton, which is also really active in this field. And she or he, which I mean, we really don't know who is behind it, but she or he is a totally avatar, but active in the art field and creating artwork. And usually he or she appear in their artworks as an avatar. Even like sometimes even it's a like game avatar or even sometimes created avatar. And as well, you can see like this avatar also has some like talk like or presenting presentations as a like as an exact artist. But I mean, but totally it's about like a digital avatar. And also, if you want to talk about like self-portrait or self-representation, it's really not possible to to not talk about Carla Guinness or not mention Carla Guinness. She did so many amazing projects in this field. Couple of years that she appeared in her work with her own like images or drawings, and she made many gifts like this that you see, but more and more with different aspects, with different experiences, with different like stories. And you can find so many interesting projects that she did. And also, I just want to like talk about like this project which she did in 2015. It was a like AR book, and she called it AR selfie drawing book. And this project is contained 1 year of her activities in digital, like in our like digital platforms, like drawing. I mean, like drawing from herself or like paintings or even like AR projects and 3D modeling as well. And she put all this project together in a book. And this book is a self-portrait or selfie drawing book that she produced during 1 year. And the book actually contains 52 pages or 52 stories, let's say. And you can see the AR, like the AR story or the AR data from each page or each, I don't know, each artwork, let's say, with AR application, which is really interesting and important, I think, project in if we want to talk about like self-representing in AR. One of the other really interesting and nice projects is done by Theo. He did this project in 2017, I think, the project called Interior. And he actually, and literally, he invites the audience in his interior body in virtual space, which is really like interesting experience. This project is also in art game and VR experience as well. For 2016, sorry, I said 17. But yeah, this project is also really interesting because he actually bring the body inside this experience, which is like really interesting to go inside the body. I mean, both in conceptual and both either in the form aspects. This project is really interesting if we want to talk about like self-representation or talk about ourselves in digital technology. Another artist, she is really active in field of like bringing body in like in virtual is Martina. Uh, she even like even before her or beside her VR and AR artworks and 3D artworks, she experienced a lot with body and like the meaning of body in virtual space. And yeah, she had many nice projects, but recently she did some really interesting projects based on her body. And yeah, like for example, the project that you see, she put like thousands of her body in a virtual space. I mean, even she brings this experience into like some platforms like Mozilla Hub that you can actually go inside this space and walk through these bodies and how the bodies is moving, but not specifically in this project, but in like in parallel projects or different projects that she has. She put many bodies of herself in a like, virtual environment and you can walk through them. And it has a really like intense like effect to the audience to walk in this spaces. And yeah, I think this project, and she's totally project is really important also in the field of self-representation. And also, Akihiko is a Japanese artist. He also brings her body, let's say, or her 3D scan into like some art game or an animation experience, which is, I mean, he is really like interesting. He do really interesting experiences with his in this virtual space, and he attached some objects, or I don't know. He has a really nice combination between like designing like the level and also the function and also himself in the space. And yeah, you can follow his work and you can find so many interesting projects. And if we want to talk about a little bit, talk about like technical, yeah, I mean, one of the best way to bring ourselves into virtual space is like could be 3D scanning, which is like recently is it's much more easier than before. Like we can easily use our phone to make 3D scan. Even the new generation of phones, they have a like TOF sensor, which is really strong and interesting to do these 3D scans. And but there are many like couple of softwares that we can use like Trino, Scandy Pro. But I mean there are many more. And also we can do photogrammetry with taking photo or video from a place and put it in like computer softwares like reality capture or any stuff. Also, like yeah, there are many like different interesting application that I mean, besides the technical side, I mean, in the conceptual and in the storytelling side of this of using this application, it's really interesting to make a parallel world. I mean, to bring our world into like into our project or into the virtual space and show where I am exactly or who from the like from the physical aspects or yeah, who am I? And uh, and yeah, I mean, from here, I want to talk a little bit from like my practices during this like this almost 3 4 years. Is like a time before like I know 3D scanning. I was experiencing with some like basic 3D modeling to show like bring myself kind of in the like in an animation. So I did some this project maybe in 2015 or 16, I can't remember exactly, and experienced some like small short videos with this body in the virtual space. And later I used some 3D scans to put it to experience with these 3D scans in the virtual space, which was really fun because I mean because at the same time when I was working with new software and when I was working with new event concept in my projects, I had this accessibility to my like my body, let's say my virtual body, and put it in that software and experience something new with that body. And also as well, yeah, creating some GIF animations and put it in on some photos. And yeah, for me it was a like, really like nice experience to work this like area. And in this couple of years, I experienced like this project, which is like the project name is Your Tool. In this couple of years, I experienced this project in different formats like image, GIF, video, 360 video, and virtual art game, and real-time VR, or yeah, real-time projects. And I see this like technologies as a mirror, but I mean, generally, yeah, for sure, we can represent ourselves in a mirror, but I mean, different mirrors, or maybe with different shapes, or maybe with different like sizes, or yeah, I mean, I just want to say, I don't want to say like, I mean, for example, GIF animation has a less intensity to bring an idea than VR. Or I don't want to like say something like this. Yeah, for sure. There are some more like there are some more possibilities in a VR project to bring an idea. But if you want to talk about a story, or if you want to like present ourselves, I mean, self-representation, or make a self-portrait from ourselves. I mean, it's really important to choose the right medium or right technique for it, because finally we can do it in all of them. But it's really important to choose the technique that we can show a little bit more or detailed or more intense what we want to show exactly. Besides all of this technique and all of these softwares that we can use, there are some really nice online platforms that, yeah, recently after this COVID situation, they also really improved, and so many new possibilities and features added to them, and is already adding also. And for example, this is a sketchfab scene, which I bring some 3D model inside, and it's really interested for us as artists to experience also these stories in a really easy to use platforms like 3D Sketchfab, that we can easily use thousands of shaders, materials, lighting, and features at the same time. Talk about something specific that we want. I mean, it costs really less time for us if we want to just sit and program all this stuff for ourselves. And I think it's really interesting to always use platforms to make these stories or do this project. And also Space VR is a really interesting also platform. It's a kind of social media platform, but at the same time we can put some 3D models, some prefabs even inside this platform. And also Mozilla Hub is also really interesting platform that we can bring a project, or I don't know, a story. We can use many ready to use features and objects to talk about something. So I just talk about this in these two slides. I wanted to say we don't need to be a crazy software engineer to talk about this story, to be able to talk about a story. I mean, there are many ready to use platforms and features and possibilities that we can easily just bring the idea. But I just want to say the idea is much more important, or the way that we want to present this project, or the way that we use forms and concepts together. And if I want to talk a little bit about this kind of storytelling, which is about self-portrait or self-representation, if I want to show some aspects that I experienced with them, and I just noticed that there could be some good points to work on this kind of project. It's an archiving field of this this way of thinking of doing the project, or let's say archiving from a specific point of view at that time. For example, these two images that you see here is the project, that really a small project that I made, I think 3 years ago. In Iran, we had a 1 week shutdown, totally internet in the country. So yeah, in this 1 week, I just 3D scanned my room and experienced a lot with this 3D scan. I mean, I just bring two slides here, two images in this slide. I think 14 or 15 different scenes. So it was a kind of trying for myself to make a new change, or make it different, the place that I'm living in, the virtual space. I mean, I just put so many objects in this scene. Yeah, I was just trying to archive my situation or my point of view of my room at that time in a different space or different ways. And the other factor I found also interesting was checkpoints in the life, even some daily happenings, or something really looks not important, but we can just dig inside it, or we can find some new possibility to talk about this simple happening, or talk about this simple story. For example, I made this when I I don't know why it was muted, but you can hear me now, yeah?
Yes, we do.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I just hear you say you're now unmuted. But anyway, yeah, like for example, I made this like really short animation when I created a Twitter account. So yeah, I was thinking maybe the new platform. And yeah, I mean, another aspect which is really helpful for us is like looking at this storytelling as a digital diary. Like, yeah, it could be really interesting. I always say like this project that I'm doing during these years, maybe the first or yeah, let's say the first audience of this project is always myself. Like for example, what you see here is something that I made in my birthday when I was like in 30 years old. So exactly on the day of birthday, I made this short animation, and all these 3D objects that you see that are passing around is the projects that I had by that time. Like each 3D object I used in a project, so I put all of them together in this project. So right now that I'm looking at this project is like for me it's exactly like a digital diary. Like for me it's exactly like just flashback to that time and just see myself at that time. So yeah, it's really interesting to like make these checkpoints from our life, even if we don't even share this project, or even at the time we don't consider this project as an artistic project to like exhibit it or anything else. I mean, we can just easily use these technologies or use this knowledge that we have from these softwares to archive something for ourselves even in the future. And then we always have a chance to flashback and review it and get memories or dig a little bit more into it. And some critique that always like applied to self-representation project that it's also a really interesting topic to talk about. It is like the narcissist side of self-representation, or talking about like this kind of storytelling that we talk about like ourselves. But I mean, for me, it's really at the same time interesting topic, but at the same time, maybe during what I did, I never think about it, like, or never I never thought about this when because like for example, right now that I'm looking at some projects that I did, I always put myself in a like maybe weird way. So I mean, the narcissist side of self-representation or storytelling in this field is really important. Like to like just we can see what we are doing, and we can discover even we can discover ourselves from what we do or what we make as an artistic project. So later we can see if we can consider it as a narcissist or not. But I think it could be a really interesting topic if we want to like go into this kind of project. Another thing that recently I'm really interested in, and I'm really like I had some experience on this. It's like metaphoric self-representation. It's like putting not just exactly ourselves or use some like metaphors to talk about to do a self-portrait. Let's say, like for example, this is a Google map. This yellow man icon on Google Map that like I use it on like a couple of projects. Not recently, like this 2 or 3 past years. Because yeah, I found like there are so many meanings already attached to this character that all of us know this character. So it's really interesting. Like for example, in this project, it was it was a collaborative project with the artist in Brussels. So there are many spheres in this place. That the spheres are some places from Shiraz and some places from Brussels. And yeah, this yellow man is floating around or just like move inside them. Yeah, I mean, it could be a really also an interesting topic if you want to do like self-portrait or self-representation to find a metaphor or find some object or find some images or find some like visuals or anything to just replace ourselves with these two. Like it's a kind of like virtual metaphor, or like maybe something else that I did like almost 1 year ago. So like it's a tree with so many like things attached to it and with some wheels inside. And also I was trying to like do some scripting with this 3D model, and I did, I think, but I didn't finish this project. Like, yeah, it's like I attached some like physics to this object and movements. Yeah, I was trying to like just like use a metaphor, like use a metaphor to talk about uh, myself, and also like something else that is really interesting that is also really important in VR and AR productions if we want to work a little bit more like technically in like Unity or the other applications is like code or programming and how we can talk about or we can how we can talk about a story or maybe like in this specific context how we can talk about ourselves with the code or what is the possibilities of programming to make a story with it or how programming could help us to like talk about like a story. And in general, I want to like something that I want to talk about is like how designing a function could represent an idea about ourselves or about our moment or talk about the story. It's really interesting and important topic because I think this topic is one of the most like impact from like digital technologies to our storytelling. Like for example, uh, like we can experience many kind of stories in like a norm or usual like forms of art. Like but when we talk about like VR or AR, like or even art game, we have a possibilities to design a function. So this function, the most important thing in this function is that user can also decide about their own perspective or their own experience based on this story. So they can even change it or they can find some new aspects in this story. So yeah, the topic of self self representation with code or with programming or with a function is really also interesting for me. Like for example, a small programming that with this trigger what I did in the project almost a year ago, or like they prepare to walk or they are walkable, and if you go behind, they just go back and disappear again. So it's a kind of like a small lines of programming, but this function could also bring a really like could also bring a concept that we decide to approach. So yeah, always like uh, we can think about how we can design a process or function with programming and talk about the story with this aspect. And also like the latest thing that I'm working not currently because this project is like a couple of months I stopped or maybe 1 month and I stopped working on this project, but I will continue some days. Is working with text database or like kind of not not specifically or not specifically virtualizing text, but it's more like an archiving or talk with text. Like in this project, I'm trying to create a platform in VR, which is like an open platform to archive a text from like each person that open this platform can create a username. I'm sorry for this weird name. It was from the debugging of this project I was doing, I was developing. Yeah, I mean, each user can create a username and write a name. Sorry, write a sentence like with a like 33 like word limitation. And this sentence is archiving is in a huge .txt file, and every time this application is like open to someone try to visualize there is a kind of like archiving or maybe like presenting like everyone's like in a like platform kind of. So yeah, something that I was thinking about, like how a text database or how a text format or how even a word could represent it, like represent us at the moment, or like a kind of self-portrait experience, because self-portrait is based on the moment. So at the moment we decide to show or talk about ourselves in this way. So it could be also applied, or it could be also happened with a word, with it, or with a sentence. So how can we like just talk about like a story or like uh, ourselves with a sentence or with a word, and how, and in the next sense, how an application could develop this text, or let's say visualize this text, or let's say like find a different ways to show this to the audience. And this way of presenting could be also changed by the application during the time. So I mean, it's a kind of like a self-portrait between us and the computer or this application, more literature or specifically. Yeah, I mean, this is a like kind of like yeah, it's a project that I started developing a couple of months ago, but recently, yeah, I will start working on this project again. So yeah, I mean, I hope it would be useful, and yeah, all of this, I mean, the projects, yeah, I can just also like if someone is curious to see more from this artist or more artists that are working on these fields, I can share the link, or I don't know any more data if I can share, I would be glad. And yeah, I hope it would be useful. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mohsen.
Thank you.
Thanks for very inspiring examples and artworks, and thanks a lot. So if there is any questions, it's time to ask. And also, if not, maybe we can also start triggering. Esra, you want to start, or may I ask?
You can ask, and then I will.
In particular, actually, as the new generation, a so-called net generation or Generation Z, has been embracing its identity, especially in social media, or just, let's say, digitally. I guess it can be expected that digital narration will be even more than it is now. So you have mentioned that you were teaching in the university, so I wondered if you have students from this Generation Z, so if by chance you see any different attitude in their interest in digital manifestation, or how do they express themselves in identities through digital art and such? Is there differences between the generations? I just wondered that.
Yeah, I think I think the most important thing that happened is like I think the new generation is more relayed, or more, let's say, yeah, more interested in the visual or in the image, or like in the like, yeah, I mean, because usually like the most different to like this generation or like the past or before is like these smartphones and many visual data that we have in our daily life. I think the most different that, I mean, or most like important point that happened in like even like students and the new generation is like relying on visuals or relying on images, and or yeah, I mean, or maybe less talk about like, or less like talk about something, or even if they want to talk about something, like, it seems like the visual language is much more easier or much more like acceptable in this era. So I think the most important fact could be like, yeah, just image and visuals could be. And also, yeah, for sure, connections and like, yeah, different aspects of like socializing could has a really good or important impact in the new generation to talk about themselves because this COVID makes a little bit like isolating for all of us, but generally like with these social applications, I think we are still so much socialing and we are at the same time connecting with so many things, and it also could like impact the way of storytelling in the new generation, I think.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And you showed many body works like an avatar and a 3D forms and many things. Thank you for sharing. And I would like to ask, can we say identity is a human body, or what is the future identity? What do you think?
It's really interesting and also really difficult. Yeah, because the meaning of identity. Yeah, I think everyone has a perspective on this in this topic. But yeah, for sure. The meaning of identity is so much changed because even the meaning of body also changed a lot during like the time that we are living. Because like there are many things at the same time attached to our body. I'm not talking about just like physical, but yeah, many things. I had a really like, oh, Hanif is also here. He had a really nice like perspective and also project about this. Like we already had this conversation in the lab that we had. But about the body, yeah, I think it's really interesting topic, and I think as I said, like in the last practice I had, I was also trying to use like metaphors to talk about like the identity. Something that I want to say, like, to not just limit it to the body itself, because at the same time, the virtual aspects of all of us is much more than the physical aspect that we had. The virtual aspects is like more active, or we are doing so many more things in virtually. So I think, yeah, the body issue is really important topics, but I think it's a time that we can talk about many like parallel things or many things attached to it or many like developed, let's say developing body from this physical to many aspects of in virtual. And yeah, there are many interested projects on this field is already happening in many artists in the world. And yeah, there are many like concepts attached to this like idea.
Rachel asked a question. Maybe we can read loudly for the streaming. Is there a project you would love to realize but would need help with? What are your experiences with collaboration?
Yeah, I think, yeah, for sure. In like generally, it's really interesting. But to be honest, I never thought about. Yeah, it's also like in the conceptual side, it could be really interesting question because what is the meaning of collaborative projects when we want to talk about ourselves or when we are working on a self portrait? It could be really interesting because at the same time, maybe even if we want to talk about ourselves or making a self portrait, maybe it could be at the same time parallel with like some others. I think in the conceptual side, it's really interesting question. But to be honest, until now in the self portrait project, not really. Like maybe for sure, maybe in technical side, yes. Yeah, sometimes like I have some questions. I always ask the friends that are expert in like virtual or programming or this stuff, or even like internet searching. And yeah, getting help is always like important when we are doing a virtual or visual project, computer art. But in the conceptual side, yeah, thanks for mentioning. It's really interesting topic, like to bring the meaning of collaborative into like the self-portrait. And also, I'm also so curious to know what you think about this concept.
what I think about collaboration. I mean, the thing is that yeah, I was just thinking about like how it's so nice to be hearing about the context that other people live in, and there are a lot of overlaps, I think, and so in that way to kind of explore them as to kind of tell a universal story about human experience, I think could be really interesting. I mean, I totally see the dilemma because, you know, this idea of self-expression, especially even for myself as I'm getting older, it's like, you know, you want to say things before you die, right? So it's like, how do I just get this thing out of my mind? But yeah, I don't know. I find it's difficult with artists because I think artists very much have a point of view that they want to express, and each artist is very different, and so it's both interesting and complicated sometimes to collaborate. But I think it's nice to experiment and take something like what you learn away from that experience, and then go create more of your own work. I think could be interesting. But your work is beautiful. I love it. I saw it at amberFestival when you spoke a couple of years ago, and I loved it then. So still doing great work.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting topic, and about the overlap, it's truly, it's totally true. Yeah, I mean, because finally, yeah, there are some overlaps. Yeah, meanwhile, I mean, for sure, each artist has its own perspective and yeah, ideas. And something that I'm thinking about is like the visual language and the characteristic of each artist in like creation of like a digital artwork. So I mean, in terms, because when we want to like even like self-represent, or even do a project in self-representation, we actually doing our own visuals. I mean, it's not just about like telling the story, but at the same time, we are just experiencing or practicing with our like our way or our aesthetic, let's say. So I mean, it could be also like maybe like topic to in the like in the main topic that you started. I mean, the aesthetic that is in collaboration, but each artist has its own like has its own characteristic aesthetic. So it could be also like interesting because at the same time like each artist has its own like aesthetic, but at the same time all artists like usually work with like a couple of softwares. Like yeah, maybe in some specific way, some people like design their own software, but generally, I mean, the platform is usually the same, but I mean, everyone find their own with colors, forms, with like even like as I said, programming. But it's really interesting to put like yeah, to find a way to put all of them together because the platform is already the same, but I mean, to put the way of using of this platform at the same time.
And Rachel, the bird calls behind you were so lovely to hear that.
Sorry?
And the bird sounds that Rachel.
Sorry, I already closed the window, but yeah, it is.
Also, I would like, I mean, it's kind of comment or maybe kind of questions, and I mean, a kind of question that I would like to hear your thoughts on. I think that the VR that while you were showing, I was just thinking behind this virtual reality or any like augmented reality or etc. increase the reality and both triggers our curiosity and fascinates itself within the like we are discovering new ways of seeing our body or the environment, but on the one hand, I also see does it seem like to bring about an alienation as well? I mean, because you are discovering much more than you expected. It's kind of the higher segment of a reality, but sometimes it kind of creates an alienation. I don't know. I'm just like winging through the ideas of the reality and the fascination of the exploration, but also kind of alienation and there's an alienation in there. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I don't know if I asked properly, but
yeah, I think in my perspective it's totally true, but I think it's a question from like all this era that we are living. I mean, because we already have this problem, I think, with this, like, I mean, this social, like, socializing, I mean, or this like platforms or this, I mean, I think it's a huge question to like to the like human at this time maybe. But as an artist, I mean as a like artistic practice and this yeah, this experience, I think it's totally true, but I don't know, maybe at the same time, maybe it works also opposite. Maybe the intensity of like using this technology could help us to use it in this way or the opposite way. Maybe at the same time we can discover a little bit more about ourselves. Like, for example, as I say, like sometimes, like, for example, years ago I made something, but right now that I'm looking at this, maybe I think different about myself, or maybe I dig a little bit more into myself by watching what I did at that time. Yeah, because I mean, if we want to like write about ourselves, or if we want to paint about ourselves, so maybe there are so many difficulties that make us a little bit more like, make us something that we just like, I mean, we cannot free ourselves in like as much as we have the possibilities in digital technology. So maybe this possibility that we can free that amount, like ourselves, maybe even give us at the same time a possibility to like a little bit like more like show ourselves. But yeah, at the same time, this tool could also help us, or I don't know, to bring us some futures that we show something different from ourselves. Yeah, I think it's also sort of like personal, everyone experiencing with it in a different way. But I think in my perspective, it could be both. I mean, exaggerated side of both, being far away or being so much close to ourselves.
thanks a lot. I see. We also checked YouTube, but I think we are end of the questions now. So maybe we can conclude the session with an announcement again. We always do it, Mohsen. So we have come to the end of this VR talks. So our ideas about the projects of Hackathon started to be presented in metrics. It is very exciting to follow these, but we need more people to write hashtags or projects that they love to do. So we will meet 1 p.m. CET on Friday again with the starting of Hackathon next week. All week you can just join the same link that we are using and we have been using through the VR sessions for just get together, or if you want to reserve a date with a mentor, just let us know, and we are trying to organize, and we are going to help you to organize it. So thanks a lot, Mohsen, for the 5th and last talk of VR talks. We are happy to hear you and saw your presentation.
Thank you so much, and everyone. Yeah, I'm also so glad to be here, and also we can continue this, like, all these topics. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, that you mentioned, if you want to share the links, we are in the hackathon. We are in the metrics with we are Storytellers hashtag. You can find us there. We would love to see the links there too.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
So thanks a lot again for and happy Sunday to all of you.
Thank you. Have a good day.